Ancient Egyptian art included painting, sculpture, pottery, glasswork, and architecture. Many surviving art is related to tombs and monuments. Aside from the brief Amarna period, Egyptian art remained relatively unchanged for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian art includes painting, sculpture, architecture, and other forms of art, such as drawings on papyrus, created between 3000 BCE and 100 AD. Most of this art was highly stylized and symbolic. Many of the surviving forms come from tombs and monuments, and thus have a focus on life after death and preservation of knowledge. Symbolism. Symbolism in ancient Egyptian art conveyed a sense of order and the influence of natural elements. The regalia of the pharaoh symbolized his or her power to rule and maintain the order of the universe. Blue and gold indicated divinity because they were rare and were associated with precious materials, while black expressed the fertility of the Nile River. Hierarchical scale. In Egyptian art, the size of a figure indicates its relative importance. This meant gods or the pharaoh were usually bigger than other figures, followed by figures of high officials or the tomb owner. The smallest figures were servants, entertainers, animals, trees, and architectural details. Painting. Before painting a stone surface, it was whitewashed and sometimes covered with mud plaster. Pigments were made of mineral and able to stand up to strong sunlight with minimal fade. The binding medium is unknown. The paint was applied to dried plaster in the fresco a secco style. A varnish or resin was then applied as a protective coating, which, along with the dry climate of Egypt, protected the painting very well. The purpose of tomb paintings was to create a pleasant afterlife for the dead person, with themes such as journeying through the afterworld, or deities providing protection. The side view of the person or animal was generally shown, and paintings were often done in red, blue, green, gold, black and yellow. Sculpture. Ancient Egyptians created both monumental and smaller sculptures, using the technique of sunk relief. In this technique, the image is made by cutting the relief sculpture into a flat surface, set within a sunken area shaped around the image. In strong sunlight, this technique is very visible, emphasizing the outlines and forms by shadow. Figures are shown with the torso facing front, the head in side view, and the legs parted, with males sometimes darker than females. Large statues of deities, other than the pharaoh, were not common, although deities were often shown in paintings and reliefs. Colossal sculpture on the scale of the Great Sphinx of Giza was not repeated, but smaller sphinxes and animals were found in temple complexes. The most sacred cult image of a temple's god was supposedly held in the naos in small boats, carved out of precious metal, but none have survived. Ka statues, which were meant to provide a resting place for the Ka part of the soul, were present in tombs as of Dynasty IV, 2680 to 2565 BCE. These were often made of wood, and were called reserve heads, which were plain, hairless, and naturalistic. Early tombs had small models of slaves, animals, buildings, and objects to provide life for the deceased in the afterworld. Later, Ushabti figures were present as funerary figures to act as servants for the deceased, should he or she be called upon to do manual labor in the afterlife. Many small carved objects have been discovered, from toys to utensils, and alabaster was used for the more expensive objects. In creating any statuary, strict conventions, accompanied by a rating system, were followed. This resulted in a rather timeless quality, as few changes were instituted over thousands of years. Faience, pottery, and glass. Faience was sintered quartz ceramic with surface vitrification used to create relatively cheap, small objects in many colors, but most commonly blue-green. It was often used for jewelry, scarabs, and figurines. Glass was originally a luxury item, but became more common, and was used to make small jars, of perfume and other liquids, to be placed in tombs. Carvings of vases, amulets, and images of deities and animals were made of steatite. Pottery was sometimes covered with enamel, particularly in the color blue. In tombs, pottery was used to represent organs of the body removed during embalming, or to create cones, about 10 inches tall, engraved with legends of the deceased. Papyrus. Papyrus is very delicate and was used for writing and painting. It has only survived for long periods when buried in tombs. Every aspect of Egyptian life is found recorded on papyrus, from literary to administrative documents. Architecture. Architects carefully planned buildings, aligning them with astronomically significant events, such as solstices and equinoxes, and used mainly sun-baked mud brick, limestone, sandstone, and granite. Stone was reserved for tombs and temples, while other buildings, such as palaces and fortresses, were made of bricks. Houses were made of mud from the Nile River that hardened in the sun. Many of these houses were destroyed in flooding or dismantled. Examples of preserved structures include the village Deir al-Medina and the fortress at Buin. The Giza necropolis, built in the 4th dynasty, includes the Pyramid of Khufu, also known as the Great Pyramid or the Pyramid of Cheops, the Pyramid of Khafra, and the Pyramid of Menkaure, along with smaller Queen Pyramids and the Great Sphinx. The Temple of Karnak was first built in the 16th century BCE. About 30 pharaohs contributed to the buildings, creating an extremely large and diverse complex. It includes the precincts of Amon-Re, Montu, and Mut, and the Temple of Amenhotep IV, dismantled. The Luxor Temple was constructed in the 14th century BCE by Amenhotep III in the ancient city of Thebes, now Luxor, with a major expansion by Ramesses II in the 13th century BCE. It includes the 79-foot-high first pylon, friezes, statues, and columns. The Amarna period, 1353 to 1336 BCE. During this period, which represents an interruption in ancient Egyptian art style, subjects were represented more realistically, and scenes included portrayals of affection among the royal family. There was a sense of movement in the images, with overlapping figures and large crowds. The style reflects Akhenaten's move to monotheism, but it disappeared after his death. The ancient Egyptian monuments. Ancient Egyptian monuments included pyramids, sphinxes, and temples. These buildings and statues required careful planning and resources, and showed the influence Egyptian religion had on the state and its people. Ancient Egyptian architects carefully planned buildings, aligning them with astronomically significant events, such as solstices and equinoxes. They used mainly sun-baked mud brick, limestone, sandstone, and granite. Stone was reserved for tombs and temples, while other buildings, such as palaces and fortresses, were made of bricks. Pyramids. Egyptian pyramids referenced the rays of the sun, and appeared highly polished and reflective, with a capstone that was generally a hard stone like granite, sometimes plated with gold, silver, or electrum. Most were placed west of the Nile, to allow the pharaoh's soul to join with the sun during its descent. About 135 pyramids have been discovered in Egypt, with the largest, in Egypt and the world, being the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its base is over 566,000 square feet in area, and was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Giza necropolis, built in the 4th dynasty, includes the Pyramid of Khufu, also known as the Great Pyramid or the Pyramid of Cheops, the Pyramid of Khafra and the Pyramid of Menkaure, along with smaller Queen's Pyramids and the Great Sphinx. The Great Sphinx of Giza. This limestone statue of a reclining sphinx, a mythical creature with a lion's body and a human head, is located on the Giza Plateau to the west of the Nile. It is believed the face is meant to represent the pharaoh Khafra. It is the largest and oldest monolith statue in the world, at 241 feet long, 63 feet wide, and 66.34 feet tall. It is believed to have been built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, 2558 to 2532 BCE. It was probably a focus of solar worship, as the lion is a symbol associated with the sun. Temples. Egyptian temples were used for official, formal worship of the gods by the state, and to commemorate pharaohs. The temple was the house dedicated to a particular god, and Egyptians would perform rituals there, give offerings, reenact myths and keep order in the universe, Ma'at. Pharaohs were in charge of caring for the gods, and they dedicated massive resources to this task. Priests assisted in this effort. The average citizen was not allowed into the inner sanctum of the temple, but might still go there to pray, give offerings, or ask questions of the gods. The inner sanctuary had a cult image of the temple's god, as well as a series of surrounding rooms that became large and elaborate over time, evolving into massive stone edifices during the New Kingdom. Temples also often owned surrounding land and employed thousands of people to support its activities, creating a powerful institution. The designs emphasized order, symmetry, and monumentality. Hypostyle halls, covered rooms filled with columns, led to peristyle courts, open courts, where the public could meet with priests. At the front of each court was a pylon, broad, flat towers, that held flagpoles. Outside the temple building was the temple enclosure, with a brick wall to symbolically protect from outside disorder. Often a sacred lake would be found here. Decoration included reliefs, bas-relief and sunken relief, of images and hieroglyphic text and sculpture, including obelisks, figures of gods, sometimes in sphinx form, and votive figures. Egyptian religions faced persecution by Christians, and the last temple was closed in 550 AD. The Temple of Karnak was first built in the 16th century BCE. About 30 pharaohs contributed to the buildings, creating an extremely large and diverse complex. It includes the precincts of Amon-Re, Montu, and Mut, and the Temple of Amenhotep IV, dismantled. The Luxor Temple was constructed in the 14th century BCE by Amenhotep III in the ancient city of Thebes, now Luxor, with a major expansion by Ramesses II in the 13th century BCE. It includes the 79-foot-high first pylon, friezes, statues, and columns. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out other tracks as well. Show your love by hitting the subscribe button and do like, comment and share, to spread knowledge. See you next time. Till then keep learning for fun.